Now, GTA San Andreas is an all-time classic, and there's no doubt about it. And can you imagine what if Trevor was in place of CJ, would he had survived? Now, for those who don't know, Grove Street is basically the hood, the center of gang activity for the Grove Street families in Los Santos. It's a rough, violent place, where only the toughest and most street-smart manage to make it out alive. So could Trevor, with his unhinged personality, military training, and complete disregard for human life, actually thrive in an environment like that? He would need many things, like intelligence. Trevor's not book smart, but he's definitely got some smart criminal tendencies and can sniff out an opportunity. That street smarts would be key in Grove Street. Guts. Oh, he's got balls of steel, all right. Trevor doesn't hesitate to get his hands dirty and clearly isn't afraid of violence and conflict. That's a must in the Grove Street war zone. Connections. This is probably Trevor's weakness. He's a loner, and burning bridges is kind of his thing. Having solid backup from a gang like the Grove Street families could be invaluable. Then again, maybe Trevor's untrustworthy nature means he'd just betray them eventually. Unpredictability. Here's where Trevor may have an advantage. His batshit crazy behavior and lack of fear could make him an immensely dangerous wild card that throws everyone off. You simply can't predict what this lunatic will do next. See, when it comes to book smarts, Trevor obviously ain't winning any Nobel Prizes. But this dude definitely has that criminal intelligence and street smarts that could be vital for navigating the Grove Street war zone. CJ from the Grove Street families had advisors like Sweet and the OGs to guide him. But he also showed he could think quick on his feet and make calculated moves to avoid getting popped. Trevor's different. He's a solo act without any real crew loyalties. So while CJ could rely on veteran advice, Trevor would have to use his own twisted brain to make the right calls. His unpredictable nature actually might work in his favor, keeping rivals off balance and unable to predict his next unhinged move. But at the same time, Trevor's impulsive decision-making and him just kind of winging it could really backfire in that high-stakes Grove Street environment where one wrong move means a bullet to the dome. Not having any trustworthy allies to watch his back would make things way riskier too. If there's one thing you can't deny about Trev, it's that he's got a pair of big ol' hairy balls on him. This dude hasn't even heard of the word fear. He'll charge into any situation, no questions asked, guns blazing without a second thought. That level of guts and sheer disregard for his own life would undoubtedly come in clutch in the Grove Street war zone. Hesitation and cowardice means an early grave in those streets. You gotta have that same kind of cajones that CJ showed, being willing to lay it all on the line without sweating. Whether it's pulling off a crazy drive-by on some ballast or having to pop a few of your own Grove homies to assert dominance, Trevor's sheer balls and adrenaline junkie mentality means he'd be more than willing to do what needs doing. But recklessness is a double-edged sword. CJ showed smarts by knowing when to dial it back. Trevor, he don't know shit about restraint. His insane antics and uncontrollable urge to crank everything up to 11 could ultimately be his downfall if he can't rein it in. One major factor that could royally screw Trevor over in Grove Street is his ridiculously short fuse and inability to keep his rashness in check. Dude has the patience of a cranked-out chihuahua. See, in the Grove, you gotta know when to shut your mouth and bite your tongue, even if some fool is running their lips at you. Making a scene and popping off over every little thing is a quick way to get laid out, capped in an alley somewhere. CJ and the Grove Street OGs understood there's a chain of command and protocol to respect, even if you got beef with another set. You can't just be running around killing anybody who looks at you sideways without there being major repercussions. But Trevor? Hoo boy. He don't know shit about restraint or taking a step back before escalating shit. D-Dude's first instinct is to react with extreme violence and chaos at even the slightest provocation. All it would take is one stupid little insult or sign of disrespect from a Grove Street soldier and boom. Trevor's already put a bomb on Dude's car or something crazy. That uncontrollable temper and tendency to just say fuck it and start spraying bullets is the complete opposite of how you gotta move in enemy territory like Grove Street. His psychopathic inability to keep his cool would have every single set from Grove to Ballas and Los Vagos all voting to smoke him without a second thought. So for all of Trevor's strengths like his guts and unpredictable nature, that anger issue of his would be his ultimate downfall if he can't get that shiz under wraps. In the Grove, you gotta be smart, move calculated, and know when to check your ego, or you get got, plain and simple. Another major X factor that could determine if Trevor sinks or swims in the Grove Street jungle is his capacity, or lack thereof, to cultivate relationships and play those Machiavellian politics. What allowed CJ to not only survive, but ultimately take over as the king of the Grove, was his ability to foster key alliances and know when to schmooze, when to strong-arm, and how to maneuver the chessboard. Even after the Greenwood betrayal, he still had enough backing to cement his power. Trevor, though? This dude seems constitutionally incapable of not burning every bridge and alienating anyone who crosses his path. His antisocial tendencies and propensity for unnecessary violence makes him pretty much universally despised by everyone who meets him. Could you really see Trevor taking the time to network, politic, and build up a solid foundation of trusted allies in Grove Street? Nah. More likely he'd just call everybody ingrates, morons, and fucking jagoffs before putting a bullet in half of them for looking at him sideways. The clique, set mentality and codes of the streets are just something Trevor's rampant egomania and inability to respect any sense of hierarchy won't allow him to adapt to. CJ played his role when he had to, but Trevor don't bow to no one, no how. So while CJ displayed the emotional intelligence to assemble a team of backers and confidants, Trevor is a lone wolf who seems to relish his outcast status as the untrustworthy wildcard. And in an unforgiving place like Grove Street, not having any real loyal soldiers covering your back is a death sentence sooner than later. At the end of the day, Trevor's antisocial inability to foster connections and his uncompromising arrogance means he'd always be a man alone, surrounded by enemies on all sides just waiting for a chance to strike. Not a recipe for longevity in the Grove side. For all of Trevor's glaring weaknesses when it comes to playing politics and cultivating a network of allies, there's one big equalizer that could ultimately allow this unhinged psychopath to run shit in Grove Street: fear factor. See, at the end of the day, respect only gets you so far in the cold streets. Sometimes, flat out being feared as the biggest bad on the block is what really commands power and makes fools fall in line. And let's be real. Ain't nobody gonna want to poke the fucking grizzly bear that is Trevor Phillips. This is a dude who seems to actively live only for the thrill of causing chaos and unnecessary violence. He has no loved ones, no moral boundaries, nothing to lose. Just a straight-up wild animal who can't be reasoned or negotiated with. An utterly uncontrollable force of nihilistic anarchy. You think some lil Grove Street banger finna try to punk or disrespect the white boy who kidnapped the daughter of a multi-millionaire landing crew just for shits and giggles? Nah. They see the deranged look in Trevor's eyes and know this is one cracker you don't fuck around and find out with. While CJ and the OGs played by certain codes and principles, Trevor is the embodiment of complete lawless ID. He gives zero fucks, and that uncompromising, consequences-be-damned mentality makes him pretty terrifying to deal with, even for hardened Grove set cats. So, for all his weaknesses, Trev's biggest strength is being the agent of unrestrained havoc and wanton destruction that nobody would want poking that beehive. Sometimes being feared as the biggest bad is what really allows you to muscle your way to the top in ruthless hoods like Grove Street, and very few command fear and unease quite like Trevor Phillips. For as imposing and downright terrifying of a presence as Trevor could cut in the Grove Street battlefield, the sad truth is this untamed beast was always destined for an early grave, operating as a lone wolf in that concrete jungle. Make no mistake, Trevor's arrival would undoubtedly send shockwaves through every set in Los Santos. His penchant for excessive violence and deranged antics is the type of wildcard X factor that would put even the hardest Grove bangers on edge. For a while, his reputation as an uncontrollable maniac willing to cross any line would make fools move with caution. But here's the reality. As fearsome a force as Trevor may be, he's still just one man waging his personal war against an entire city full of entrenched, battle-hardened gangs with networks, tactics, and staying power. No amount of individual craziness can outrun the resources and collective might of seasoned outfits like Grove Street, Ballas, Vagos, and more. Eventually, Trevor's love for always taking things too far and bringing maximum chaos would put a permanent target on his back that he simply can't outrun or outgun alone. Without any trusted soldiers watching his back, he's easy pickings for a well-coordinated hit from the combined forces he's managed to piss off. At the end of the day, as unhinged and fear-inducing as the Canadian madman may be, He's still just one wildly unpredictable variable in an equation filled with formidable opposition looking for any opening to take him out permanently. He may get some runs in and have Grove Street on tilt for a hot minute, but the dark reality is, Trevor was always fated to just be another cautionary tale of what happens when you're a man alone against the world in the unforgiving LA concrete. In the Grove, fear only gets you so far without strategizing and true loyalty from a connected crew. For all his strengths, Trevor's greatest flaws and lack of any genuine bonds means he was destined to just be another forgotten hit chalked on the streets, having gone out not with a bang, but a trendy little whisper. He ain't no CJ, and we are done. What do you think of this situation? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care and have a nice day. Don't forget to subscribe.